Hello, I'm Dr. Annandale, and this is the second in a series of videos about Father John Dubois, founder of Mount St. Mary's University. John Dubois arrived in Norfolk, Virginia in the summer of 1791. He spoke no English. His only asset was a letter of introduction from Lafayette to James Monroe. But even this was of uncertain value, since Dubois did not know Monroe's views about the Revolution or about priests. Many American founders saw the French Revolution as a continuation of the principles of the American Revolution. So as he made the 90-mile journey to Richmond, Dubois must have worried about his reception as a Catholic priest fleeing from a revolutionary government into the arms of an American revolutionary. Monroe was, in fact, ardently pro-French Revolution and relatively anti-Catholic, but he was also a gentleman, and as a gentleman he received Dubois into his home, showed him hospitality, and gave him a place to stay. Over time, these two young men, Dubois 27 and Monroe 33, would form an enduring friendship. In the 1790s, Richmond was a small, rough town of just 3,700 people. For locals, that's only slightly larger than the current size of Emmitsburg. The town lacked adequate church buildings, so the Virginia General Assembly had invited two Protestant ministers to hold Sunday services in the new state capitol building. The Assembly broadened this invitation to include Father Dubois, and he celebrated Mass in the courtroom of the Capitol. In November, Patrick Henry returned to Richmond to practice law. Dubois studied his oratory, as he learned English, and would later tell his students that he was indebted to Henry for many friendly lessons in our language. Father Dubois also began traveling through northern and western Virginia, serving Catholics in far-flung frontier communities. He rode the circuit to Alexandria and Harper's Ferry on a regular basis. Dubois took a job teaching French at a local school. He rented lodgings in a riverfront house, and by Christmas 1791, he felt sure enough of his English to run the following ad in the Virginia Gazette. The public are hereby informed that the Reverend Mr. Dubois from Paris will, in January next, open school for the French language. He will also teach in private families and will receive a small number of boarders who will be instructed in the English, French, Latin, and Greek languages, writing, arithmetic, and bookkeeping. Such as desire to employ him are requested to leave a line for him at his house next to the bridge on the right hand from the Capitol. Dubois' school was a success, and within a year he added a second set of afternoon classes. Richmond newspapers carried regular updates of events in France. In the summer of 1792, the French revolutionary government outlawed Catholicism and arrested all remaining priests. Hundreds were interred in makeshift prisons, including one made from a seized Carmelite monastery near Saint-Sulpice. In early September, they were given one final chance to take the loyalty oath, and when they refused, 191 of them were massacred, 95 inside the monastery. 16 of these were priests Father Dubois had lived with during his time at Saint-Sulpice. Had he remained in Paris, he certainly would have been among them. Now, despite its bloodiness, the French Revolution still found supporters in America, including Jefferson, Madison, and Monroe. And around this time, Father Dubois formed another settled conviction that would characterize the rest of his career, an aloofness from politics. Years later, he said in a sermon, "God forbid that I should sully this holy place with the scandalous recital of all the sacrileges, murders, and impieties which disgraced those stormy times. Minister of God of peace, I have nothing to do with wars which revolt humanity. Much less have I to do with the politics and politicians of this world." In 1793, refugees from the French Caribbean colonies poured into Virginia, but more headed north to Catholic Maryland, straining the resources of the Bishop of Baltimore, John Carroll. In early 1794, about 2.5 years after Dubois had come to Virginia, Bishop Carroll asked Father Dubois to move north to serve the church. He did so immediately, setting out for the rural town of Frederick, Maryland. To be continued.